On this episode, I'm afraid personal and professional lines are going to get blurred because my family is visiting. One of the guests is my brother Adhar Khurana, and the other is my father and stalwart Akash Khurana. And we're going to try really hard to have a linear and meaningful conversation. Good luck to us. Welcome to the show, Adhar. Welcome to the show, Dad. Thank you for being here. So, guys, excited to be here or what? How's it feeling here?
I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you a fan of this podcast? Have you been listening
I'm a
to it?
fan. I mean, a bigger fan than most people imagine because I've seen everything so far.
Have you seen anything?
Some.
No.
Yes.
Trailers don't count.
No, trailer, more than trailer.
I think the reels are all that you watch.
Couple of episodes I've heard.
But I think it's nice and fitting that the last episode of the season that I'm shooting is with the two of you all, right? I mean, don't you think that?
As in, yeah, you saved the nepotism till the end.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
actually that's what I wanted to start by talking about nepotism.
That's
My first card note is nepotism.
Excellent.
Considering,
yeah.
At least you're transparent.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is good.
Absolutely.
This is the week of a small family business opening.
Which is actually my link over there. Thanks for ruining my links.
Oh, fuck!
I was supposed to lead to. You can swear on YouTube. Swear on YouTube.
Swear on YouTube.
Yeah, you can swear on YouTube.
See?
Swear on YouTube.
Nepotism was supposed to lead to small family business, but I'll still do it and we'll pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, you let it.
So and this will not come out this week, no? Small family business will be.
Oh, it's in the past.
yeah,
Okay.
How does it matter? It is in the past.
Yes.
Okay. So why don't we start with talking about nepotism, yeah, Dad? What do you feel about this whole nepotism discussion that's going on? Is there any merit in it?
Uh, yes and no. Because there are times that all things constant, nepotism helps, but you can't undervalue talent. So if you are here for a long haul, then the gates may open, but they can shut quickly too. Uh, Also, there's this whole nature versus nurture debate. I think it's a question of legacy. Nepotism, in its purest form, is about legacy. And if you look at artisans and the basic crafts that civilization grew on, a potter's son would traditionally be a potter's son, and
Yeah.
we are artists. And probably if actors or people in the film business weren't perceived as part of the glamour razzmatazz showbiz world, it wouldn't have got the hype that it did.
Yeah, I mean traditionally, even now, like doctors' families have doctors, and there's an expectation.
Everywhere,
Yeah,
everywhere. So I think
so-
there's no big deal about it. But yeah, if you think that's the only thing that works, and those who sort of are not up to believing in this cause, and typically they would be a group that's not part of the nepotism circus, as it were, then perhaps they should be reassured that if someone gets in and is not talented enough, then probably that journey is not going to be very long.
Yeah, no, and what we were talking about, and it's Aadhar is directing a play called A Small Family Business, and technically, if one looks at the larger umbrella of performing arts or theatre, for example, because we're talking about that kind of tends to be our family business in that
Right.
sense, right? I mean, we've got that to take. I mean, and AK Various has now been around for 23 years, which has kind of been a business in that sense, and so. Exactly what you said, but so just a little bit to get you talking a little bit is that there was a very conscious decision that you took at some point of time in life to run away from the family business now that we've established the family business. So, talk us through that. Why did that happen, do you think?
I mean, I'd more than. I mean, of course, I don't know if it was somewhere like deep deep rooted rebellion in a sense also, but I think it was also because with the both of y'all growing up, having y'all around, I think there was a fair amount of this world already like available to me, and it was in front of me. So perhaps there was a inherently it was somewhere to kind of just break away from that and find your own identity, your own calling in that sense. So I think it was that more than just the rebellion. I mean, yes, maybe the rebellion is a part of it, but I think it was also like it felt like when I did go away to Scotland to study forensics, it was also like perhaps that I had tick marked these boxes in a sense. Of course, not like actually being an integral part of it, but
You had
almost living,
access to
yeah,
it.
access to it, living vicariously through y'all or whatever it
Yeah.
is. So I think it was more that than just a rebellious, like whatever, that kind of decision in that sense.
But why forensics?
I think there was an inclination towards science for sure, and I think there was something about in the science it should be appealing or interesting, and I think because of the upbringing in a sense there was always, obviously you were reading kind of fiction, detective stories, and that fascinated me a fair amount. So I think then that kind of fell through, and then when you're just and I think initially there was conversation about me perhaps doing biotechnology because I think that was up and coming. But I think then when this whole, like suddenly there was this whole world introduced of to me of forensics. I think there was a suddenly like it's not only just the science and the studying aspect per se. There's also like a massive interest towards it. I think because of course when I went to university it was absolutely different. In fact, I think our first lecture they told us that if you all are here because you like love CSI, then get the hell out.
But you hadn't seen CSI.
I hadn't seen
You had
CSI.
read
I
Feluda.
had read Feluda,
Feluda
yeah,
was your
Feluda, Hardy
yeah.
Boys,
So,
whatever, that kind of
so
stuff. So I think yeah, it just became an interesting science. Like my interest was piqued in that sense. So yeah, that's why forensics.
and I'm going to do brief segue. I'm going to come back to the
Yeah,
forensics thing. And Feluda, since we spoke about Feluda, Feluda is by Satyajit Ray, and you had the opportunity, and not too many people know about this, to that you had worked with Satyajit Ray. So you'll tell us a little bit about that. What was
So,
that like? How did that happen?
Manikda, Satyajit Ray was actually mentoring a project for his son,
Right.
Sandeep Rai, who directed uh, something for Doordarshan, with short stories written by Manikda, I think. Yes,
Right.
all of them.
Okay.
And they were typically nostalgic, old world sort of episodes. And I had the good fortune of being in the same room with him. And
But as I know you were doing a lot of acting. How did you get onto their radar? How did that happen? I mean, because Calcutta is
I don't know. I think Sandeep might have seen some of Sham Benegal's,
right. The films that you did, right?
films, uh, or some recommendation through an AD, or I think Sham Babu's actors ka list, and then because there were others also, and I really forget. There were 8 short stories. They were very nice and comfortable, and there's an ethos in of filmmaking in then Calcutta, which was efficient but extremely easy paced.
But his son was directing
His
this.
son was
So he
directing,
was
but
around
Manikda
as a
was
writer.
on sets, and we chatted, and Manikda being Manikda, just he would drop gems that didn't mean anything on the surface, but became high motivational gems for me. Well, that was precious. Yeah.
And so coming back to that, so then you went to Glasgow and you were doing forensic biology, and then as circumstances had it, you actually found
came
your
back. Yeah.
way back to the family business. And how disappointing was that?
I mean, I think it took some time. It did take a couple of years to kind of just figure it out and kind of like be like, okay, this is my reality now. I mean, yes, of course, there were things, certain aspects of the other life that had to be eliminated first before I could kind of like say that this is what I want to do. I mean, I think a lot of it is also down to you because I think in my free time when I was not doing anything and just being a bum, you were like kind of why don't you get involved and stuff like that. So I think initially it was just a way to pass time really. So and I don't even know if it was like a hobby that time. I think it was actually just a way to pass
You were
time and
filling the time,
yeah,
yeah.
filling time. And I think like there was just a bunch of happy people, and it was fun to be around the people in that sense. So and yeah, I think that's how it started off initially. But I think it took me a couple of years before felt like, oh, this is something I enjoy. I
Do you
want.
remember that moment where you kind of realized that this is something that perhaps you would want to pursue?
I mean, I think there was a phase. Perhaps I don't know if there was a moment, but I think that's very like even now the way we work and kind of like even now that we've been collaborating so much, I do feel like there's something about just being thrown into the deep end
Right.
that kind of almost kind of it's not brainwashing necessarily, but almost kind of convinces you or makes you lean towards a certain side. So I think that's what happened with AKVeris, and I think when like okay like Rafta Rafta happened where that was the first time I played like a almost the protagonist part or whatever it was, and I think there was something about yeah, perhaps I wasn't enjoying the amount of work I was putting in, but I think then suddenly just the maybe the little bit of the validation that came with it later of telling of being part of a fun play, something that was resonating with people, people were enjoying, people were watching, and I think there was a shift there perhaps. And I think then that followed by a couple of like more experiences, and I think because of the kind of person I am, and I think that's I mean, I am quite sociable and social. Yeah. So I think that also helped that it was something that was with people. Like it wasn't like something
It
that
was a
yeah, it was a
community
community thing,
activity
and it
and
was not like. And then when I look back, I'd be like, had I been part of like I had I been a part of the forensic world right now, I'd be sitting in a lab alone, like and like working on DNA samples. Like so, just the contrast of that was amazing because I think just having so many people and just the way people were functioning and kind of just seeing how why they're doing it, how they're doing it, it was very inspiring. I think, and I think that just yeah, I think just the fact that I was I think a people's person was also very helpful in that because I think I was just happy to be surrounded by this, and I think that and I think that was very nascent, but now I like it's very evident that everything we do is collaborative and has to be for the people, by the people, of the people, So I think that was lovely, and I think just the energies, the madness, all of it, like the chaos. It was organized chaos. Maybe not even that organized initially, but
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I think all of that, all of those factors, kind of helped decide.
So, I mean, when we kind of started this whole podcast series, I think one of the things that I wanted to steer clear from, from was that I didn't want to get into stuff which was easily available on Google. Quite honestly, like it was all of that, and I mean, your body of work is massive, and I'm only going to get into a couple of facets so that I don't want to go down that CV, because that's another season in itself. It's not an episode, and yeah, that's a whole bunch of masterclasses. But coming back to this whole legacy situation, and I've actually never asked you this question. I mean, and we talk about theater all the time, and we talk about work all the time. And I've actually never asked you that when you're kind of sitting where you are right now, and if among all the other legacy, the 23 years of AK Various is your legacy. Uh, Objectively, when you look back at that journey, how do you feel about that?
Very good, simplistically. Uh, Very rich. Uh,
And the process, I mean, where it started, and the
uh,
how. What about?
uh, so I believe that accidents are part of adventures, but there is no sustenance with accidents alone. Because as I said, that you can open a door and then probably go through only if you have the sustenance. Uh, so there were lucky accidents, there were some quirks of fate, but the fact of the matter is that somewhere there were enough resources, as it were, to pull through and peak sometimes at that level of quality and competence. So when I look back, I think one thing led to another. There were ups and downs, but there's extreme pride, and I'm. It's not about bias here or whatever. I'm hardly that guy. Uh, to have attained this level of quality in the work you do is something everyone should be proud of. And I mean, my testimonial might not be enough, but the world around is also feeling that. Uh, and sometimes there are two pockets, one of admiration and sometimes envy is a great litmus test. And if there are enough people envying your performance and calling it either nepotism or elitist or whatever, then that should be a compliment.
So, a question which I know that perhaps you and I have had these conversations, perhaps, and I want to kind of include him in this conversation as well. And it's very interesting because on the podcast itself, and when we've kind of spoken to people who say married, who have partners, and this conversation always comes about personal and professional.
Right.
Like the whole thing is that when you're working together, the thing is that what are the pros and cons, and there was a lot of interesting discussion that came up that sometimes what happens is it's like one like echo chamber, like it's basically you're stuck in one rut, and
Nice.
you're taking your work
Yeah.
back home, and there's no switching off when you're from the same field. Sometimes it's better to have partners or companions who are from other fields, because you have other things to talk about. How do you feel about this? Because I mean, we as a family are constantly working with each other, and we are constantly working with each other in various this whole. Do the personal and professional kind of lines bother you at all? Do you feel the need for a demarcation?
I mean,
And
I think we are. I mean, maybe initially yes, maybe there was some, like, it was bothersome, but I think now it's not at all. I think we've evolved into, like, there's something really beautiful about what's going on with all of us, even when we're working, when we're not working. I think it's amazing. I think it's, I mean, yes, there is a aspect of the fact that, okay, maybe our personal life also, we are discussing a lot of the professional life, but I also think, I think that's also because we enjoy the profession so much, we love the work so much, that, and that, like you're saying, it doesn't ever feel like work, right?
what about you, Dad? What did you feel about when like, and maybe it's interesting to kind of think of it from, say, maybe the point of view of, say, mom,
Yeah,
or
that
I have a
generation.
wife who of course is part of the
Yeah,
arts, but she's also a psychologist. But do we end up excluding other people? Is that
you
something?
sure.
So, and in the family setup, how do we maintain that balance? Or, like, for example, like I used to say this at one point of time, that sometimes when we were working together, or you and I were working together, and we were living together at that point of time, and we didn't have a great rehearsal together,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that baggage would come back home. So there was no real switch off. And also, as artists, as the word, we don't switch off.
Right,
I mean, like, I was up at 4 yesterday in the morning thinking of something about a play I'm supposed to write. And it was just because I was like, okay, I'm wired right now because I've thought of something interesting. So you're not switching off, which
right.
is which has its downside. So what do you feel about?
So very interesting here that, I mean, this to your mother's credit, that she didn't resist being included.
Right.
And the environment in which I operated in was pretty much open to
And
that
welcoming.
inclusion.
Right, right.
And so a sense of belongingness, empathizing, and also to say, okay, let's just watch a play or just be somewhere in the creative process, do costumes, hands on. And then when it came to films, writing for film fair. So I think it's again a lot about an open attitude, which a member of a family, in this case your mother, can have. And as he said, you mentioned that he gets it from his mother. So this sociable angle of making friends easily is a quality, and sort of that worked to some extent
Sure.
in balancing the equation. As far as being in the same room with you two is concerned, I think those are formative years.
Right.
You're right. Yeah,
So in this mature thing, that it's a room with any professional.
yeah,
It
Yeah.
stopped being a room with family members
Sure. I mean,
long
I guess
ago.
it happens in any kind of.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And vice versa, because if I'm with another group and I only work with people I like, then they actually elevate themselves in my perception to the role of a family.
right.
Absolutely.
Sure. Which is an extended family that we
Family in
In a
any
function
way,
under.
case.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
No, so speaking of the mother, and speaking of the formative years, the two of you did a play called Tuesdays with Maury,
Yeah.
and a good play, if I may say so myself. I happened to produce it, but it was quite a wonderful product, and you were, of course, had an immense experience coming to play this part of Maury, who eventually kind of becomes a mentor, and we'll come to mentorship to the character played by Adhar, who at that point of time was fairly green,
Yes.
and definitely quite contrasting in terms of discipline. You were there, and you were playing these parts, and you were kind of working with each other, and it was just you two and more. What was that experience like?
In retrospect, brilliant. During the process, I had to adapt a lot, purely because of it's a two-hander essentially.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
And unlike the text of the play, where it was still amenable, an equation between a mentor and a mentee, here there were perception issues. It was not about an attitude problem. It was just different styles, personality
Absolutely.
types.
Yeah.
And for me, so I'm disciplined and punctual to a fault. And that is not to say that he's indisciplined to a fault. He tries. But again, it's a personality type. That if those impediments or so-called differences, had they not been there, would my eventual sort of process could that have been better or not? I don't think that's a rhetoric question.
Yeah, yeah.
But in retrospect, I think had that not happened, and I might be so. Incidentally, there's a whole page in my book
Yes.
on mentoring which talks about this example of me, Adhar, a play about mentorship,
Yes.
with Dilshad, your wife, doing the lights and you producing it and your mother directing it, is in a sense a precursor to what your recognition today as AK Various and Akarsh and Adhaar uh, is sort of kind of led up to a small family business.
Right.
It's a decade ago that
Yeah.
2012 we did Mori, and flash forward to small family business where a co-production with AK Various is happening with you two at the helm of affairs.
And again with NCP
And
involved.
again,
Yes, yes, yes.
and the
Absolutely.
experimental.
Yes.
Now, that for me is the magic of a journey.
How do you remember that process?
No, actually, I think that was a very, especially in terms of with the parents, I think that was a very big culmination point in terms of the whole professional, personal conversation that we were just happening.
Sure, yes,
So
absolutely.
I do feel like professionally, perhaps for me, it was not my best work.
Okay.
In hindsight, if I was given an opportunity to do it, like say now or a few years back, I would have done it.
You're talking about the quality of your
quality of
performance.
work.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would have been better, obviously, and
And the
also
process?
and just with him being the other person in front of you, of course, and I think that was also like, and I do believe that I don't have, when it comes to acting and all, I don't feel like there's no ego or there's no nothing like that. I like to believe I don't have that, but just the fact that when you know someone would come up to you and be like, you are really good, but the other man in front of you is always going to be better because yeah, and I'm like, and yeah, 100%. But just the fact that that conversation is being had, I wish it didn't happen. Like even if it was just like, okay, great play, man, fuck it, like it's cool. Like let's not get into the specifics
But
of it.
like if everyone said what a two-hander.
What a two-hander, it would have
Yeah,
been different.
it
And
would
I
have
do
been
feel like today, if I was doing it with him, maybe things would have been different in the professional aspect of it,
right.
in the performance aspect of it. But I think what happened is when we were working through it, there was and I think again it was my early years, so I think there was a bit of a, are we crossing the line in terms of they are also now in my workspace, whereas also in my home space.
Well, and as the material goes, it was quite life imitates art,
Yes,
imitates
100%.
life. So there
Hundred
was
percent.
a.
So I think the process, but having said that, I think the process helped improve our personal
I was
relationships.
going to ask that. Do you think that that made a
For
difference?
me personally, it did. I did start seeing them as peers, as friends. So I mean, I think there was a bad phase like initially, but once the show started happening and stuff like that, I think then that was actually a very interesting turning point in a sense, at least in our personal equations. I think I felt much closer to them after that.
And when Tuesdays with Maury was happening, was this book that you wrote about mentorship on the radar at all?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at
So you could have sparked an idea, perhaps.
all.
But
Perhaps at
so
least that page that I wrote.
yes. So talking about your book a little bit, whether or not Tuesday with Maury had any kind of influence on it, but about mentormorphosis and about mentors, and in that, like there's a page about Tuesday with Maury. There's a fair amount that you have written about Pandit Satyadev Dubey in that, who is one of your mentors, certainly in the field of theatre, and also a mentor to many. It's also strange that as times move on, the newer generations don't really know anything about him and his work. And it's sad when we're discussing legacy that something like that is something that's kind of fading away. My question to you is, what was special about Pandit Satyadev Dubey? Why does he matter so much to people of that generation?
Because without they realizing it, he would bring out the best in these people. And the process was rigorous, but the rewards were stunning. So, in retrospect, he has this long sort of following of people with gratitude. And I just had this workshop where, of course, a lot of interesting things came up. But one of the things that sort of I realize now that is important is that there are some people who have an instinct for truth. For me, that's the new line in terms of all workshops that we should have. That don't feel inadequate if you're not getting to a point of expression where the truth is not being expressed. Because some people have the advantage of an instinct for truth. Dubé had that. Also, an instinct for dynamics. I mean, without a second thought, he would choreograph and block one of the most brilliant pieces of theatre. And the reason for their brilliance was that you didn't know it was brilliant. It was so organic and so real and helped the text, and he was a man for the text. It helped the text to such a great degree that that is how his productions and his performers mattered when it came to delivering. He was a rare breed, indeed.
As a continuation of this question, which is something I wanted to ask you particularly, and then I want you to weigh in a slightly more micro manner, because I mean, you've been doing theatre since forever, more than 4 decades, uh,
Actually,
five
more than
perhaps,
5 decades,
more than 5 decades,
Get your facts right.
and you've been doing it.
if not six,
Oh,
incidentally.
nice.
Yeah, my first play was in the third standard.
I think they're counting those years.
Yeah, because they were
On the Bombay theatre scene,
Before you were
5 decades,
before you
they're
were-
more than 4 decades.
more than
before
four
you were in
decades.
your third
And
standard.
on the
And
Bombay
Bollywood.
theatre scene, you've been around now for more than a
14
decade.
years.
So more than a decade.
Yeah.
So in a micro sense and in a macro sense. So Dan, what have you seen change in these decades? And you've been an active participant, and there are very few. There is you, and there's Nasir and Ratna, and there is Sunil, who's still active, and chips of the old block who are still and adapting and doing very good
Yeah.
work in that sense, and staying relevant with all of that. But in terms of the milieu, the theater world, where you started off, say, in a Chabil Das kind of situation with Dubey, and you of course spoke about how temperaments have had to change. But the how's the theater scape changed?
Actually, not much,
Right.
barring audiences
Sure.
and the number of performances.
There are more performances now?
Yes, because the venues have expanded, and that's again proportional to population.
Sure.
So if you were getting 20 people at Prithvi, getting a full house is no big deal.
Right.
Because it's that suburb, it's that
Sure.
crowd, it's that
Sure.
sensibility, it's that level of literacy, purely as a proportion of the population increase
Sure.
in urban Bombay, Mumbai. But the processes and the quality are pretty much similar. So, like Chabildas, there is a poor theatre somewhere, space,
Sure.
where people are doing work. Today, when you do in a remote corner a production, it's tantamount to an environment which is uh, needs rigorous work, but there is an audience to watch it, and there's a following. Like Sunil, you mentioned, they've got a residency somewhere. Productions are happening. Not that it's like Chabildas; it's another is far more pristine and beautiful. But I'm saying in terms of work, the effort, the quality, ranging from superb to mediocre to wannabes, it's all the same.
And how's the audience changed?
Uh,
Not just in size. How has it changed in terms of?
I think sensibilities that also the kind of work that is being done is in sync with the demographic. So if there is more literacy, more awareness, technology has given you an insight into human behavior, social media. Then people are more educated. The younger generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs are different than a Gen X audience, and there's stuff being catered to every demographic. So in that sense, there's a growth. But again, in a larger absolute level, it's still about the population.
But correct me if I'm wrong. But were the audiences harder to please back in the day?
No, I don't think so. In fact, those who came to the theatre came to be pleased.
And you think that still exists, or you think
Oh,
people have
it
become
does.
more cynical?
It does in a different way, in a far more community. Because the most embarrassing thing for me is that every show gets a standing ovation.
Yes.
Now that's a bad quality
Someone
check.
just did an article about that, and
Yeah,
about,
I
yes,
believe I've
at
read
Theatre
it.
Inc. and
It's closer home.
yeah,
Uh, but that's embarrassing and it ruins actors. There are no standards left anymore. A standing ovation is something precious that happens when real magic happens. It's good because everyone's getting encouraged. I don't hold it against them, but I'm saying when you're talking about, so people like things easily now.
that's what I was wondering. I think I always felt that now they come to get, come to be pleased,
Yeah.
and I wonder if they were more discerning back in the
But
day.
like, what about
But
the?
here's the thing, and that again is limited. I mean, you know Marathi theatre. I mean, crowd pleasers, they were happening back then, they're happening now.
Sure.
And the same quality, the same stamina, and the same dauras, more than 30 shows a month.
Yes.
All that is still the same. But I'm speaking specifically of the world I came in. So those who came to be pleased, even they were discerning and disagreed,
Right.
that debate that would follow,
Was part of the
the
Conversation,
critique, that was elevating. That was
right.
that world where with these 30 odd years at least of the 40 that you're talking about. And it tapered off somewhere, I think. It's still there. And there's a huge. Uh, so I did recently a talk for something called Bhasha Center
Right. Yes.
on
The
Harold
Pinter stuff.
Pinter
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Argya
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Not very many people discerning. Some people did the caretaker recently. So that was great. There were 15, 20 people, and it was a sense of hope. And the discussion was pretty much that. But I've outgrown that. I don't have the patience for that anymore. But I can see them growing into a level of maturity and I hope they don't freeze there. So the
Right.
problem with cerebral analysis of theatre is that you remain just critics and analyzers. You don't convert it as theatre artists or practitioners to what matters to the audience. How do you reach the playwright's material
Right.
in the way it's meant to be reached? And that for me is a gap, and that is where I'm extremely cynical and skeptical. Forgive me for that.
What is your take on this from the time that you've come in the last 15 years?
as in how it's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think because initially I was a bit of an outsider. I mean, even though I know you all were running, the theatre company was running and it was functional, I do feel like there's some level of competitiveness that's gone out
Has gone out. Okay.
within the theatre groups,
Right.
like within the theatre community. I think there is, I mean, I think it's still there, but I don't think it's as prevalent as it used to be. I think there is some
I think one thing that has come up quite a bit is that feudal structure
the
is kind
feudal
of
structure,
gone.
yeah.
Maybe.
As in, I
Yeah.
think
So
there's still more now collaboration happening. There's more sense of community per se,
do you agree that? Do you think that?
to a certain extent.
No, I think in the arts world, whether it's movies or theatre, xenophobia is an extremely strong quality. It can't go away. Whether it's happy competitiveness
sure.
or not, we don't know. But it can't not exist.
No, I'm not
But
saying
it could
yeah,
have, yeah. So again, it's the worlds.
That
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
the
100%.
familiar spaces. What are the changes? For me, it's a no-brainer because I don't consider anyone operating today as competition.
Right. Nice.
That,
Nice.
I
That's your
I don't
promo.
know how
That's your promo thing.
how to follow up on
Yeah.
that. Let's
There's a promo shot there.
here's a question for you. What was like back then? Was there repeat viewing happening?
There were followers. I, for one, was a repeat audience.
I feel like this also kind of changes from the, like, say, Gujarati theatre
Yeah,
or commercial theatre,
Yeah.
like Bharat Dabholkar used to do, and
Yeah.
Bottoms Up and Grandson of. There was a lot of repeat crowd for that.
Yes.
Which you're right, it was the more frivolous stuff. It could have been. Not frivolous, maybe a bad word, but it was the more fun
yeah,
stuff.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
light-hearted.
the entertaining stuff. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that somewhere as English theatre, we are a minority, obviously.
Yeah.
And English, Hindi theatre in Bombay again is less than, say, maybe Marathi theatre and Gujarati
Gujarati
theatre.
theatre, yeah.
But Gujarati theatre, and I was talking to people who've come on the show, I was talking to Pratik Gandhi, it was a night out. It used to go on for 4 hours. People
Party,
used to
yeah.
get their
Yeah.
dinner. and they would do once
No, no, no.
more
It's
and
it's a big
stuff.
deal.
That's a
It's
it's a that was real enjoyment and commercial. And somewhere while we talk about this, about kind of being more accessible, we are also a little bit rigid because we want to tell a story and we don't want you eating while you're watching it.
Yeah, yeah.
We are not flexible there. We don't want you to kind of be having fafda while you're watching our play or asking us to do once more.
Right.
If
yes,
you say something in our show, we'll get a bit offended.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, no, please let us tell
yeah.
our story the
No,
way we
it's I
want to.
think a
So it's a
cultural difference,
sensibility and a cultural,
sensibility
yeah.
issue. Also, really, the kind of say English language or Hindi, uh, and these kind of productions that we do really are not a clear sort of representation of a larger theatre world. It's just still specific
Yeah, I
because
suppose, yeah.
yeah, because here's a perception question. There's Neil Simon.
Yes.
How would you rate him? One, and his place. So you begin with there. And then there was a lot of Neil Simon and stuff like that being done by Adi Marzwa
Yes.
in the South Bombay, call it whatever group with people from ad agencies and very, very high class talent like Homi Darwala and so many. I mean, that's Shanaz's parents,
Yes. Yes.
Barjor and Ruby, legend. Now, is Neil Simon frivolous? That answer,
Nice.
that answer is really what sums up everything that people want to discuss in terms
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, that ends that discussion. Yeah. uh, but one quick thing before I'm going to
He's
move
not
on.
planning to talk much. Just,
Uh,
just say.
one I'm gonna come to you, ask you something soon. One thing before I close this chapter, one thing that I want to ask you is, uh, in the theater world that you are a part of, your theater world, our theater world that is kind of now integrated in that sense, what has changed for the worse? I have an answer, but I want to know yours. And I don't know if your time frame allows you to see something change for the worse, but
No,
if
I
it
don't.
does, then
No, that's
uh,
okay. I'll let him.
no, no. I mean, if there is something that is a good point to discuss, I mean,
I think I'm in an okay mood today, so I can't. I can't think of worse. It's all good. Everyone to each her own space.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the sensibility of the youth.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think connected to, I think the lack of rigor is something that I feel.
Collect rigor.
So
Also, those who not forget, those who don't know history are condemned to repeat it
repeated,
some
yeah.
way. That's pathetic.
Okay, from
Wow.
saying I'm in an okay
Good,
mood,
good.
that
That
went that
changed.
escalated
But you
fast.
provoked me.
I'm sorry. Yes, I am sorry. No, but I do kind of see that there is, and I don't mean it like again, and this is, I don't mean it as a negative thing at all, but I think that, there is a reduction in discipline, and maybe that works for us right now. It works for us
Uh,
right now, but because of our lives being different, because of the everything that but it's a small thing. Like when I look at, say, actors like, say, you or Benjamin Gilani or even others, they had their scripts till like 50 shows, like every day. And like, I mean, you're working with actors now who on the third show stop bringing it. Like, just something as
Same
small
all
as
as yeah,
that,
simple as
it's
that.
just
Yeah.
something as just the and
yeah, I still carry it when I'm traveling.
yeah, I'm saying that I think the
Podcast script also.
I have a, and this is not a plug, and I promise it's not a plug, but it's something that I've been wanting to talk to both of you about, because also we've been involved with it, particularly him. I want to talk a bit about Adyam.
Yes.
And you've been a part from
Yeah,
the
yeah, for
inception
sure.
of Adyam. You've acted in
Acted,
one Adyam
Yeah,
play at least,
yeah.
and you've seen the family go through various Adyam. What do you feel about Adyam and its contribution to the theatre scenario in Bombay, in Delhi, in India?
I think people have found a voice, and the avenue to make that voice reach out more. It's one of the biggest landmark movements in recent times in the theatre, bar none. So you are institutionalized something that is not part of an institution.
Nice. What
There
do
is
you?
no infrastructure. They're just a gathering of huge talent as software and actually creating a body of multiple works over seasons, which are now already history. I don't even know about
Yes.
tomorrow,
Yes.
the pandemic. But so here's the acid test about how well intended Adhyam is. Because of the pandemic, there was a season that went purely virtual.
Right.
Right.
We shot a same play
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
that I had directed
Yes.
earlier,
Hound of the
The Hound of the
Baskervilles. Yes.
Baskervilles,
Yeah.
in an empty St. Andrews, and went online
Yes.
because it was a product they respected, it was something that mattered, and they wanted to be there for perpetuity, not lose the link.
Nice.
Now, for me, that is perhaps what Adhyam represents. That how and it eventually, I don't know where it goes. There's seasons and there are seasons and there are products and sometimes and again there's a question of reach.
Sure.
But whether there are 200 people watching an Adhyam play or 2,000, and we've had both. We've had recently an intimate production
Yes.
where full house or whatever, but 200 people, and then the first show of Hound got a full house at JBT.
Which is 1,000 people. Yeah.
1,000 people under the Gypsy Booth that I direct was a full house.
I think that if I'm not mistaken, I think Kite Runner is
Kite
the
Runner?
only production of theirs that was sold out of all shows of Adhyam.
There you
That
are.
was that all 9
And that
shows.
was the
All
only
night
one
show.
that I was.
I was a
in,
part
so
of, yeah.
I'm just
No, and also I think that there's one thing that comes up, and it's weird because our mother's involved in it. First season of Adhyam had a play called Sidhu Zuvapuju,
And she
Right.
was in it and still
and
running.
it's still running.
Yeah.
So in that sense, when there are detractors who are saying that it's a flash in the pan, it's not, because if you've got the gall,
Yeah.
you're still running it, and apparently that show still goes full.
Yeah.
So I mean that's an Adhyam product that kind of went.
Kind of goes on.
So what do you think about, like, what has Adhyam made it more accessible to your friends, to your people
I
who
mean,
are not
I don't think like barring say Meta, I don't think I'd seen anything of that scale.
scale? Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, like to me, it's like the Super Bowl of theater, right? Like it's like
Because of the ways
yeah,
we
or
promote it.
whatever, it's a World Cup or whatever the hell it is.
There are hoardings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so-
it's also like you're kind of getting the. I wouldn't. I mean, I don't want to say this because I think we've been involved in a fair, but it's almost like getting the creme de la creme of the theater world kind of to get involved in it. Like Dad was saying, whether it's like the performers, the artists are all like whatever, whether it's the actors, the people doing sound design, light design. So I think it's and I think it's bringing it all of that together and putting it on a bit of a pedestal, which is important, I think, and making people, audiences see that even more so than we would do that normally, you know.
Normally, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
just
so
make it, just
and-
come in the eye.
And to make it so clear that it's not a plug, and even though they're listening right now
They
while
are?
we are talking, they're always listening. Adhyam's always listening. Adhyam's the big brother of theater.
Oh wow.
But to listen, what can they do better?
This will be edited.
No, but we should say it. We should say it. They'll have it and they'll
Revive
put it up
Kite Runner.
and I'm actually projecting exactly what I said earlier. And I said maybe a cynic. My benchmarks, I think, are too high, and I don't have the solution.
Right.
Otherwise,
No.
I know people in Adhyam well enough to have advised them so.
Right.
Correct? Is the selection of content, and I'm risking this because we have been in
Selected.
four of the six
Yeah,
seasons.
yeah.
Fortunately,
Yeah.
we have delivered. So in that
So
sense,
you think?
no,
yeah,
that's what
so-
they think too. That's what the world thinks too. Just to sort of digress again, because we are not plugging, but we are still talking Adhyam. Let me talk about the F word. Someone saw the F word, met me at a leadership conference in Delhi recently. And the biggest compliment, and you were talking about Maury in terms of what a two-hander.
Right.
The biggest compliment I have got as an actor is not the obvious for F word. That person came to me and said, all four of you were brilliant.
Nice.
That says a lot, in a sense, about
Nice.
what an actor or a lead player should be.
Right.
That the attention should never go to the character being paid by the lead person. The play is the thing.
And considering he's giving me feedback about my play on a podcast and
That's
not at
amazing.
home, I think personal and professional is sorted.
Sorted,
So,
sorted.
yeah.
Also, does that mean you want to do Mori again?
You want to, you clearly do. So
No,
I
there are
wouldn't mind
multiple requests. But I think the F word is by New Mori.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, Toral and Q. Toral came up to me after the F word, and Toral being Toral, to say that thank you for this meant a lot to me in Toral's context.
this will get edited.
No, it's a compliment. No, no. So anyway, so Toral came up to me and we talked about Thespo. And says, I've seen you in Waiting for Godot and stuff like that, and I've seen your work, and it's great, whatever. But there are people just now with me in the from Thespo in the audience who haven't seen you at all on
Ever,
stage.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So this is my Mori for them.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Discover.
Yeah,
It
no,
was,
and I see what you're saying, and there is no solution to it, and I'm sure even the Adyam gang is working on this selection process because,
yeah,
but the thing is, again, pros and cons. How democratic do you get? How do you do any quality control?
yeah.
It's there's no
No,
winning
and
in
and
this.
and
So
and and is it because those who are only just a bit above mediocrity are chosen? Because we don't know the world around. I don't want to comment like that, but probably they are doing their best, and that's the best that's available. But I'm
and
saying let's be optimistic. Let's
yeah,
see, based on these 6 seasons, where are the lags and what can be enhanced. And
I think it's a constant learning.
it's
It's
a constant
subjective.
learning.
We are never happy with all the 10 plays chosen for Meta, for example, even though everyone
Yeah,
has
yeah.
applied.
But
And I think that it's horrible to say this because we are involved in content creation, but it is kind of the age of mediocrity, unfortunately, which seems to be getting the numbers. But yeah, that balance, of course, has to be found. And I am now going to move into what is supposed to be a rapid fire section. Okay, it's quick. We are almost done, and it's a slow burn. I call it a slow burn because I'm not a rapid kind of guy. Okay, let's start with something really easy. What are your favorite performances of each other
Oh, fuck.
on stage? Let's stick to stage. We won't go into the film space. We'll talk about stage.
Effort.
Is your favorite better than Mori?
As in, Mori was like too close. Like, I
You're
mean,
sitting too
yeah, like
close.
I can't you can't judge that as an audience member. So
So
yeah,
you think the F word is his best
yeah.
performance? Yeah, I think he's excellent in it. But I feel like I may have been more impacted by his performance of Greenwald in Kane Mutiny Court Martial.
I mean,
For
I think I
me,
was too
I don't know. I
like
don't know.
young for
Yeah,
to
I know. But
remember
that's
that
something
well.
that stayed with me very long. And I guess for me, F word becomes too close.
Yeah, fair
It
enough.
becomes like, yeah. So
No,
that
like and
was.
like yeah, I mean like Gordon all is also fun, but I think like it's just like there's
No,
more
no, I think.
impact like because
Yeah.
it's
I
yeah
think
there's
he
more
devastated so many people that, yeah, something special happened in the F word for
yeah
sure.
absolutely.
What about your
just
favorite?
jog my memory. Name me three
No,
plays.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
So
He doesn't
I
have an
was
answer.
pleased with his performance in the verdict.
That's a
Good
big
that
one.
you're the verdict.
So clearly, like there's evolution happening because your latest projects are your favorite projects. So you're like evolving as actors.
Pleased.
Yeah. No, but that's good. That's a good point. Yeah.
That's a no,
Again,
but that's a good performance.
Yeah.
It's unexpected, which was
Sure.
always special for me.
nice.
That's a good one, man.
Thank you.
That's a good one. An Indian production that you are not a part of, and perhaps we are not a part of, that blew you away. Can be from ever.
Too many, but I'm not part of directly or indirectly.
Ideally,
Ideally, Ghanshiram Kotwal,
whose production,
Theatre Academy,
which was directed by,
Jabbar Patel.
and why? Why was that so special?
Uh, it was the first time I saw an Indian production do so much to create multiple magical moments, and just
And where did you watch this?
I forget now. Could be on the Pune stage with Mohan Agashe playing Nana Fadnavis. It's just. Also, I was getting into this world of the ethnic.
You're quite soft on Tendulkar, though, right? So
So, so I think that's the reason. Because for me, he's up there, not as close. I mean, he's up there. I mean, he's one of the top three people, if I were to relate to the quality of work. And Vijay Tendulkar is up there. And
nice.
that I had a personal equation with him. And in a very subtle, sly way, he kept building my confidence
Nice.
is something so cherishable. So, yeah, Akash Ram Tendulkar, probably.
How about you?
As in, I think again because it's close to home currently. I'd like to say every brilliant thing. Just if you put on your like performers gaze, even in terms of like putting it together, in terms of just the material, I think in all aspects, it's just, I mean, again, I know it's not like scale and this, but I think it's just, it it's fantastic in delivering what it's set
Set
out
out
to,
to
to
do.
deliver, so, and of course, because I'm now working closely with the guy also,
No, but I mean,
irrespective of that,
excellent,
but I think,
excellent
yeah,
work.
I
Yeah,
mean, at least in the last 5 years, that's something that, like, has stayed with me. I mean, even till now, perhaps,
yeah, absolutely.
in terms of everything, like every brilliant thing.
For both of you, your most fulfilling performance on stage need not be your best, most fulfilling.
Which decade?
Any.
So the
You can pick
first,
one from each if you want, but like so. But there
no,
must be
The
so
something that
third
you,
standard one, I think,
something
is
you
the
remember
one.
most fondly.
but in Bombay,
Sure, let's do that. Yeah, sure.
otherwise it'll go somewhere in history.
Third standard.
No, it will
Okay.
go to adulthood.
College.
Just beyond that.
Slow
So
burn doesn't mean
You
like
can
it
say, you
can't
can
be
say.
rapid fire.
If it was fulfilling for some reason, you should
yeah,
say it.
because it got 347 laughs.
347 laughs. What is this we're talking about?
Moliere's The Miser.
Which you did in college,
No, in Jamshedpur.
XLRI. So that was a fulfilling part.
Yeah, because it's the first time I discovered what I could do.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
And of late,
Godot, Cane Mutiny, Mori, F word.
not bad.
Nice.
Couple were ours. So
Good
nice.
stuff.
What's your most fulfilling performance on stage?
I mean, I'm just because I think I'm in love with the man and like love with all his work that he's doing, like has done. I would like to I'd say Behind in Spokane because I got to play a part in a Martin McDonough text of like whatever, play a character of, yeah. So I think that was it. I mean, it was a shame. I might not have done justice to it, but I think it was just this, and then to eventually find out that Sam Rockwell was playing that part when it happened
But as in
abroad.
while you were doing it,
Yeah, it was
fulfilling
amazing
to you.
because also
Yeah.
I think he's one of my favorite like playwrights or whatever it is,
Yeah, wow.
and filmmakers now. So yeah, I think Spokane.
In the theater world, not necessarily acting related, it could be direction, acting, whatever. What's the best advice you've received?
Hey, funnily, I received it today
Nice.
from from Mr. Bruce Guthrie. Uh, what direction is not about making people do what you want, but making them believe they are doing what you want.
They-
They are doing
not making
they are
them
doing what
what
but,
they
but
want.
but what they want.
Direction is not making people do what you want, but making them believe that they're doing
Doing
what they want.
What you want.
What you want.
Making them believe that you
they
want
are
what
doing,
they,
yeah.
Oh,
that empathy.
okay.
Something
Nice.
like that. And he's also it's not like he quoted someone else. I forget who, but he did. Uh,
As long as the best advice you received is advice you understood.
yeah,
I think
it made sense. It made sense.
In
I
that
know. I
moment-
told him to watch
In that moment, what about you?
Too many. I don't know. It's a bad.
Early days.
Just you give one.
Early days.
No, I
on
don't
your-
even remember who said it. It's all there.
You say the words. Don't say enjoy the last day. I said it already. No.
Don't try too hard. Just trust.
Nice. Nice. And now the last.
Actually, you also like some good ones, like the whole like just be kind of situation.
Just be is not like that's like a
Yeah, that's
Nike
advice.
slogan.
That's good.
So
Man.
that's
Don't act. Just be.
And the last one's actually for him. Since he hasn't said much in
Can
this
I go to
podcast.
pee?
So since he hasn't said much, this is the last one because it's early days for you yet. I don't think that you can do that.
I'm out.
You've been doing workshops on interpretation of text. You've been working with kids who don't get enough. They want many more hours, and you spoke about the youth and all of that. What advice can you give to that youth that wants to kind of get into a meaningful theater career? This youth of today, this disgusting generation.
It's not disgusting.
So,
No. I am an optimist. This is not disgusting.
so no, that's me. That's me. That's after 2 seasons of Mismatch. So
Nice.
no, but what would be the advice you would give to someone who's coming into this now? With all your years and watching all the transition that has happened and all the
How many words?
you do you, babe. So
Don't think you are here to get a job. Come here for the reason that you believe in the world.
In the world of theatre. Right. So then it's, yeah, come for the right reasons, basically. That's a good point. That wasn't so bad, was it? How was that?
I don't know. I don't think it's entertaining enough.
It doesn't have to be.
I laughed a few
No,
times.
as it is, no one watches it. I'm the
No,
only
the
one.
people watch, yeah. We get good.
I'm the only one who's watched
You're
cover
not
to cover.
35,000 people. Have you watched Zafar's episode 35,000 times?
Wow.
Have you seen Shiti's 33,000
No,
times?
no, once
So someone else is doing it then. Maybe it's the Adyam people just
Maybe it's
on
the
loop.
disgusting youth.
Yeah, maybe that's the one.
No, but this again, I'm not plugging Adya, but this is damn good, no? Because it's in the archives now.
Yeah, it is. And hopefully they'll give us another season. So
No,
of
this should be forever.
And a hamper.
Exactly,
extended
because
hamper.
as 35,000 is great, it is, and suppose some of it is youth,
Huh.
then they are seeing all that happen.
They're
No,
seeing
that's exactly my point.
So, because,
So Adyam is actually archiving stuff which is
because of
what
your,
these guys are missing.
Because of your advice, some people will see this episode and cancel that flight to Bombay.
No, they'll all
Because
come.
they're not coming.
They'll come.
They'll
They'll
come
come.
looking for me only.
Nice. So thank you, Adhar and Dad,
Thank
for
you, bro.
doing this. And that was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Hi, I'm Adhaar Khurana.
Hi, I'm Akash Khurana.
We had a wonderful time on Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana. Thank you to Adyam. Please listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Binge Pods, or wherever you listen to your podcast on. And don't forget to follow Adyam on Instagram and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much.
And with that, we come to the end of the first season of Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana. We've recorded 18 episodes in which 23 guests have come and shared with us the most interesting stories and wonderful insights. You can watch these episodes on YouTube, or you can listen to them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Binge Pods, or wherever else you listen to your podcast. And stay tuned. Hopefully, we'll be back with more episodes soon.